At in this video, we will discuss proving triangle congruence using the different postulates, the SAS, ASA, SSS, and AAS. Two-column proof. So ito rin yung tinatawag natin na formal proof. So this is a proof consists of a list of statements and the reasons why those statements are true. So ito yung kapag may nakikita tayo na naka-table na merong dalawang column, and then sa left side, nandun po yung ating statements, and on the right side, nandun po yung ating reasons. Okay. We have here 4 sets of figures. Now, can you please tell me if it's SAS, AAS, SSS, or ASA? Okay, so for our first figure, we have here, so as you can see, our angle is included. So this is SAS, congruence postulate. Next, so as you can see, we have here 3 sides of a triangle congruent to another 3 sides of another triangle. So therefore, this is SSS congruence postulate. This one is, we have A, your side here is included, and then another side, which is congruent also to another triangle. So therefore, this is ASA congruence postulate. And this one, we have 2 angles, but your side is not included, so therefore this is AAS congruence theorem, or pwede rin po itong SAA. So these are the postulates or theorem we can use in proving triangle congruence, or para ma-prove natin that the 2 triangles are congruent. So ito po yun. So let's have an example number 1. I have here IL, segment IL is congruent to segment EL, and then segment VI is congruent to segment VE. So, let me remind you that in writing 2-column proof, okay, we may have different ways or steps in proving, okay? So, iba-iba po ang yung sunod-sunod ng ating statements. Ang importante po dito is yung final answer. So, dapat magkakama po tayo dun sa ipoprove natin based doon sa mga statements na nilatag natin dito sa umpisa. Okay? So, kailangan ma-prove natin to gamit yung mga statements na ilalagay po natin dito sa unahan niya. So, pwedeng magkaiba-iba tayo ng reasoning, pero make sure na yung reasoning po natin ay based po doon sa inyong pinoprove o mag-lead sa inyo doon sa ipoprove po natin. Okay? So, ito po, based dito, saan ko po ito nakuha? So, ayun po siya. So, ang reason po natin dyan, that is given. Right? So, now, kapag meron tayong mga ganitong given, always mark your figure. Kasi yan po ang mas mabilis na paraan para makita ninyo agad anong meron o anong nangyayari sa proving ninyo, o ano yung mga steps na nagagawa nyo na, o enough na ba itong mga statements na to para masabi ko na itong dalawang triangles na to are congruent. So, lagyan natin ng markings. So, itong IL is congruent to segment EL. Also, yung segment natin VI is also congruent to segment VE. So, lagyan po natin siya ng mark. And then next, so we have already 2 sides of 2 triangles are congruent. Now, since nag-share sila ng common side, okay, so titingnan nyo yung figure. Since nag-share sila ng common side, therefore, segment VL is congruent to segment VL. And the reason is reflexive property of congruence. Now, so i-check nyo po segment VL is congruent to segment VL. Hindi po pwedeng LV. Depende po yan. Okay? So segment VL is congruent to segment VL kasi based dito sila po ang corresponding. Okay? So we have reflexive property of congruence. That is the reason. Lagyan po natin yan ng mark. So therefore, we can now prove that triangle VIL is congruent to triangle VEL. Why? So balikan natin yung given mo. Ito po ay side. Ito yung side mo. This is also a side. Ito po yun. And then this one also is a side. Okay? So as you can see, we have 3 sides of 2 triangles that are congruent. So therefore, we can prove that triangle VIL is congruent to triangle VEL by SSS congruence postulate. Let's have example number 2. So I have here AF and CD bisect each other at B. So, pag nababasa natin to, dun pa lang sa given, i-dissect na natin siya. Pag sinabing dissect, i-analyze na natin siya. Okay? So, dito pa lang sa given natin, merong ginamit na word na bisect. When we say bisect, hinahati niya po yung segments or angles, depende po. Since segment po ito, ibig sabihin hinati niya yung segment mo into 2 congruent segments. Okay? So, let's have the proof. So, dito po, ang sabi dito bisect. So, nag-bisect sila dito sa B. So, ibig sabihin, si AF mo, hinati niya into 2 congruent segments. Si CD mo, hinati niya rin into 2 congruent segments. Yun po ang given natin. So, lagay natin at AF and segment CD bisect each other at B. So, ibig sabihin, that is our given. Now, since bisect nga po, ibig sabihin, ang goal po niya, no, ang trabaho niyan, hinahati niya. Okay? So, therefore, ito, congruent. And then this one also are congruent. So, etong side na to is congruent to this side, and this side is congruent to this side. Kasi base nga po dito, bisect. So, base tayo dun sa given. Okay, so we can now have our statement number 2, that segment AB is congruent to segment FB, and segment CB is congruent to segment DB. Why? This is a definition of bisector. So, kanina nga binanggit ko ano ba ibig sabihin ng bisector. Hinahati niya po ang segments or angles into 2 congruent parts. Okay, so dinefine ko yon, ibig sabihin, definition of bisector po ang reason natin dyan. Next, so from here, meron na tayong dalawang sides. So ano pa kaya yung pwede nating ilagay na statement to prove that these triangles are congruent? Okay? So since meron ka dito, present dito ang vertical angles mo, so pwede yun ang ilagay mo. So number 3, angle ABC and angle FBD are vertical angles. So that is by definition of vertical angles. Okay? So etong dalawang to are vertical angles. Ayan. Now, since vertical angles sila, we can say that angle ABC is congruent to angle FBD. Kasi since vertical angle sila, ibig sabihin they are congruent. Why? Ano po ang pwede natin gamitin dito? We can use the vertical angles are congruent. So ito alam naman natin yan that the vertical angles are congruent. So since nasa statement number 3 mo that these two angles are vertical angles, therefore, pwede mo yung gamitin sa statement number 4 that they are congruent. Now, so we can now prove, since meron na tayong given, that triangle CAB is congruent to triangle DFB. Okay, so we have here side, we have here another side, and then you have here angle. Now, if you will try to look at the figure, your angle here is included. So therefore, this is SAS by SAS congruence postulate. Let's have example number 3. So I have here triangle FEE is congruent to triangle CEA. Also, we have angle FAE is congruent to angle CAE. So we will prove that these triangles are congruent. Triangle AFE and triangle ACE. So let's do the proving. So for statements, we have, so lagay natin yung given. This is, the reason is given. Now, kapag meron kang given, sabi ko nga po, i-mark nyo po sa figure ninyo para gumagalaw o nakikita nyo na agad kung ano nang meron. So we have angle FEA is congruent to angle CEA. So they are congruent. As you can see, we have the same markings. And then we have angle FAE is congruent to angle CAE. So they are also congruent. Now, based dito sa ating given, we have two angles. And based dito sa ating figure, since nag-share po sila ng common side, okay, meron po silang common side, which is AE, segment AE. So pwede natin yung gamitin since nag-share sila doon. So segment AE is congruent to segment AE. And that is by reflexive property of congruence. So congruent sila dyan. Now, we now have two angles and one side congruent to each other. So we can now prove that triangle AFE is congruent to triangle ACE by, so this, we have an angle, we have another angle, and we have a side. Now, if you can look at the figure, your side here is included. So angle, side, angle. So therefore, we can prove that these two triangles are congruent by ASA congruence postulate. Let's have number 4. So I have here, segment FA is congruent to segment CA, segment FE is congruent to segment CE. Now, we will prove that triangle FAE is congruent to triangle CAE. So let's have the two-column proof. So your statement will be, you can start or you may start with our given. So that is given. Actually, ito yung pinakamadali. Okay? Now, so from your given, you may mark your figure. So we have FA is congruent to segment CA, and then your segment FE is congruent to segment CE. Next, so since nag-share po sila ng common side, therefore, we can also say that segment AE is congruent to segment AE, and that is by reflexive property of congruence. So lagyan po natin dito ng mark that this side of a triangle are congruent. So congruent sila since nag-share, congruent ito dahil nag-share sila ng common side. Alright, so we now have 3 parts of corresponding sides na congruent po sa dalawang triangles natin. So we now have triangle FAE is congruent to triangle CAE. So this is a side, this is also side, and this one is a side. So therefore, we can say that these two triangles are congruent by SSS congruence postulate. Let's have example number 5. So I have here segment PD is congruent to segment PE, and then SD, your segment SD is parallel to segment EN. Okay. So we have segment PD is congruent to segment PE, and then your segment SD is parallel to segment EN. So this is given. Now let's do the marking. So lagyan natin ng mark si segment PD at si segment PE since they are congruent based po dito sa ating given. Now these two sides of two triangles are congruent. So we have angle SDP is congruent to angle NEP. Okay? So reason, if parallel lines, since parallel po si SD at si EN, therefore these two triangles are considered alternate interior angles. So again, since kung parallel po ito si SD kay segment EN, ibig sabihin, kung nare-recall nyo yung concept ng parallel lines cut by transversal ng grade 7, so parallel ito, pag meron tayong parallel lines cut by transversal, so this will serve as our transversal, ito po ay nakakonsider natin as alternate interior angle. So kaya ang reason natin dyan, if parallel lines, since parallel lines nga po ito, then alternate interior angles are congruent. So congruent po itong angles na to, which is yung angle SDP and angle NEP. Next, so kung congruent sila, ibig sabihin, angle SPD is congruent to angle NPE. So angle SPD is congruent to angle NPE. Why? Vertical angles theorem. So as you can see, meron tayo ditong vertical angle. So lahat ng pwede mong gamitin sa figure mo na pwede mong gamiting statement, kagaya po nito, binigay na po ito sa atin, this is our given. Now, i-recall mo yung mga pwede mo pang gamitin. Since given yung parallel lines, pwede mo gamitin yung alternate interior angles. So meron ka ng dalawang parts. Now, since ito ay vertical angles, pwede mo yun ilagay that angle SPD is congruent to angle NPE. So ilagay natin yan by vertical angles theorem. So we can now prove that triangle SPD is congruent to triangle NPE. So by, ito ay side, ito po ay angle, and this one is an angle. So kung titingnan po natin, your side here is included. So ASA. So these two triangles are congruent by ASA congruence postulate. So let's try. So I'm giving you 30 seconds. If 30 seconds is not enough, you may pause the video. Alright, so let us check. So I have here, A is the midpoint of segment SC and segment EP. Now, segment SC, this is your SC, and segment EP. So, intindihin nyo muna yung problem. I mean yung given. Pag sinabi nating midpoint, ibig sabihin, siya yung gitna. So, kung gitna siya, siya yung point na nasa gitna ni segment SC at ni segment EP. So, kung nasa gitna siya ni SC at gitna siya ni PE, ibig sabihin, etong dalawa, congruent. And these two sides are also congruent. Okay, so na-analyze mo na. So, let us start with our proof. So, A is the midpoint of segment SC and segment EP. So, this is given. Now, since midpoint, pag sinabing midpoint, gitna siya. So, ibig sabihin, hinahati niya ito into two congruent segments. Kasi, midpoint siya ni SC, so hahatiin niya to ng pantay. Midpoint din siya ni EP, so hahatiin niya rin tong segment na to ng pantay, ng congruent. So, ayan na po ang ating figure. So, pwede mo yung gamitin as your statement number 2. Kasi based dun sa iyong statement number 1. So, we have SA is congruent to CA, and then PA is congruent to EA. Now, make sure po, tama po ang arrangement po natin, itong mga vertices po na to. So, SA, CA, PA, EA. So, this is by definition of midpoint. So, kapag meron kasi tayong midpoint, ang trabaho niyan, hinahati niya po yung segments natin into two congruent segments. Okay? So, parang yan ang mark. So, kapag may midpoint, binigay si midpoint, hinahati niya yan. Kasi siya yung pinakagitna. Next. So, from here, we already have two sides of the triangles that are congruent. So, meron tayong given na vertical angles. So, pwede natin gamitin yon. Angle SAP and angle CAE are vertical angles. So, that is by definition of vertical angles. So, ano ba yung definition of vertical angles? Na kapag meron tayong intersection ng two lines, yung angle po na nabubuo natin doon are vertical angles. So, meron tayong intersection ng two lines, the SC and the PE. So, we have SAP and CAE are vertical angles. So, kung vertical angles yan, ibig sabihin, angle SAP is congruent to CAE. So, ano pong reason? Vertical angles are congruent. So, lagi po yan that the vertical angles are congruent. Now, we can now prove that triangle ASP is congruent to triangle ACE. So again, ASP is congruent to ACE. So, pwede nyo balikan yung mga statements nyo. Ito po ay side, and then ito po ay angle. So, tingnan nyo yung angle. Yung angle mo dito ay included. So, therefore, this is SAS. So, we can prove that these two triangles are congruent by SAS congruence postulate.